All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 8:46, so we're 1 minute past due. Ladies and gentlemen, we are call the Senate Judiciary Committee to order this morning. First of all, before we get to the roll call, had some an update on Senator Whatley. You may notice that he's not here. His father yesterday had a heart attack and is having treatment and surgery today at UAB. So keep Charles Whatley and Senator Whatley and the whole Whatley family in your prayers. I know he would appreciate it, as would I. Also, just understand got unconfirmed reports, and so I apologize for not having 100% confirmation on this, but enough to where I feel like I need to share that Representative David Wheeler passed away this morning. And so that's a shock to all of us here, and I know his family would covet your prayers. Before we move any further, a couple of folks here that I'd like to acknowledge being here. We've got a couple of judges, probate judge Laura Hall from Marengo County. Judge Hall, thank you so much for being here. And Judge Michael Bunn, probate judge from Pike County. Thank you, judges. We appreciate y'all's attendance and being here, and thank you for helping in this process.
Judge Hall is my judge.
Your judge. Well, Judge Bunn's not my judge, but he's close enough to be my judge. So, those ain't good enough. I hear you. One last announcement: the members of the Judiciary are invited to the State Bar tomorrow morning for a breakfast at 7:30, I believe. Check with your assistants and look at your calendar, and look forward to seeing y'all there then. All right. With that being said, we've got a pretty aggressive agenda, 2 public hearings. My guess is we will not get through the agenda, but we will do the best we can to address the issues as they come up, and hopefully we'll get some good work done here today. Mary, will you call the roll?
Senator Albritton? Here. Senator Coleman Madison?
Here.
Senator Figures? Senator Gavan? Here. Senator Marsh? Senator Orr? Senator Sanders Fortier? Senator Singleton?
Here.
Senator Smitherman? Senator Stutz?
Here.
Senator Barfoot?
Here.
Senator Whatley?
All right. We have a quorum, and we're going to do things a little bit out of order from off the agenda today. As I said, we do have a couple of public hearings. First matter we're going to take up, though, Senator Stutz has some special guest here, and we're going to take SB 245 and SB 223 up. Senator Stutz, you're recognized on SB 245. Mary, you need to do something before we recognize him. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get into the bill, I do want to mention that, as you know, I had a previous bill in the previous committee, and we're trying to work through to an end point of some truth in sentencing. And the genesis of this bill was the murder of Sergeant Nick Reisner in October of 2021. And we are honored to have his daughter Allie and his brother Billy that are here with us today for this hearing. If y'all would stand up, please. And I'm sorry that you have to be here, but I very much appreciate you making the effort to have a long drive from the Shoals area to be in an early morning meeting in Montgomery. And thank you for being here. Now, 245. Senate Bill 245 simply does not take away all of the good time credit, but the mandatory parole is pushed back, and you would serve 85% of your sentence before you had mandatory parole. And this bill make some other technical changes, but this bill would provide that a person convicted of manslaughter would not be eligible for parole until he or she has completed 85% of the sentence or served 15 years, whichever is less. And currently a 10-year sentence, assuming no jail credit or jail disciplinary actions, the end of sentence would be 3 years 2 months and 18 days. And then with the bill that we had previously done with mandatory early release, it would subtract 6 to 9 months from that sentence. And so you would actually only serve about 2 years and 5 months and 18 days. And your initial parole consideration would be at 11 months and 18 days. So what this bill does is it says that you would not be eligible for that parole until you had served 85% of your sentence. So it basically a bill that we had previously passed in the very recent past about early mandatory release, and this takes that away.
Thanks, Senator Stutz. And the changes for the manslaughter provisions, I'm
Correct.
supportive of it. Committee members, any questions?
Does the person have an option to appeal if there's an appeal process to this? I mean, it could be new evidence that come forward.
I mean, this doesn't affect anything as far as your appeal. It simply takes away the mandatory early release. You know, under current law, let me find that part exactly, but depending on the length of your sentence, for terms 5 years or less, the prisoner will be scheduled for initial parole hearing on the current docket. For 5 to 10 years, your initial parole is 18 months. For 10 to 15 years, your initial parole is 2 years and 6 months. And this simply says that if you're convicted of manslaughter, you would not be eligible for early release until 85% of your sentence. If I can, there's some, Barry Matson is here. If there's more technical questions about how that actually works, I'm certainly not an attorney. I mean, we have some attorneys here, but
I play one on TV sometimes. But Senator Albritton, you had your hand raised.
Yes. In fact, I would invite, if it's all right with the chair, Mr. Matson to come up.
Mr. Matson, if
Mine
you
is
will.
a little bit technical on that. My concern on this, Senator, is dealing very often, the difference between manslaughter and murder very often is intent and the ability to prove that. And it's prosecution sometimes finds that it's more feasible to take a manslaughter plea to what was a murder simply because of the difficulty or risk of proving intent or not. Moving this back, would that affect the ability of the DA to deal with negotiations? Does that put murder into the same category and such as manslaughter? Does that make sense?
Well, it would probably impact some of those conversations, I think. But right now, we're at such a mystery as to, I don't think really a defense attorney or a prosecutor can tell a victim what a sentence is really going to be. We just don't know. There's no certainty. And so I think with this, having some bit of certainty that you can tell a victim and that a lawyer can tell their client is helpful, because right now, if a 10-year sentence doesn't mean 10. We just have this kind of fiction in our criminal justice system where a 20-year sentence, everybody knows it's not 20. 20 is really 2.5, or it's 3. It's not 20. But we don't really know what it is because it's based on everything's layered. You've got an incentive good time bill for education. Well, that's layered. That doesn't blend in. It layers on top of the one y'all passed last special session. That was an early release up to 11 months, which is on top of other good time. So with the bill passed in special session, that would add another year off of a sentence, because they don't blend. They're layered, and so we really, unless and no lawyer can do math. So that's one of those things that trying to figure out the mathematical part of sentencing structure is very difficult. And I think in Officer Reisner, in the case where the person that killed the officer, you even had the added thing of he had bad behavior in prison and should not have been up for parole, but somebody dropped the ball in that situation. So how could you even know that? So I think the trade-off for us would be some degree of certainty that that they're at least going to serve 85%. Although it's subject to good time, they still would get good time. They'd be under that 85% under those others.
And Mr. Matson, this bill simply puts manslaughter in the same category that violent A offenses already are. It's 85% or 15 years, whichever is less. Is that correct?
Moves them into that category.
Any other questions, members? With that being said,
It's a bad bill.
well, that being said, any comments or questions? And
No, I'm just going to vote no and fight it on the floor.
I understand. With that being said, I move to give it a favorable report. I'm sorry, let me back up. Is there an amendment?
No, there's not.
No,
I'll
just-
take care of
okay.
an amendment on the floor if we
Okay.
get one.
Have a first, second, Senator Gavan. Any opposition? I think you.
Opposition.
No, let's call a roll and get a good roll on it.
Senator Albritton? Senator Coleman Madison? Senator Figures? Senator Gavan? Senator Marsh? Senator Orr? Senator Sanders Fortier? Senator Singleton?
No.
Senator Smitherman? Senator Stutz?
Aye.
Senator Barfoot?
Aye.
Senator Watley?
It's 5-1. Bill receives a favorable report. There's one abstention. Mary, if you will call the next bill.
Lock them up, throw them away.
SB 223 by Senator Stutz.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. This bill kind of runs hand in hand with that bill, and this bill simply adds manslaughter, Class A felony or manslaughter to the provisions that do not allow for mandatory early release. Prisoner still gets good time credit. They still get all the other credits, but it would take away the mandatory early release. And as Mr. Matson said, these things are all layered on top of each other, where your education credit, good time credit, mandatory early release, they don't run hand in hand. They're on top of each other. So it markedly reduces a sentence and interferes with the ability to know exactly when someone would be released or how long their sentence would be. And this bill simply adds manslaughter and Class A felony to the things that don't get mandatory early release.
Okay. Committee members, any questions or comments as it relates to that bill? Okay. Yes, go ahead.
You said manslaughter and what else?
Class A felony.
Is it voluntary or involuntary manslaughter? Does it make a distinction?
It's again, I might have to call on Tricia or Barry to answer that question, because it's pursuant to Section 13A-6-3 of how that manslaughter is defined. So,
And I believe Senator Stutz, that section is a section that defines manslaughter with a dangerous instrument or deadly weapon.
So, are we for certain that?
Let's get folks up here from DA's office and answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Melberg?
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee.
Good morning.
Yes, it would include manslaughter. Currently, it just says manslaughter, and would be by the use of a dangerous weapon or deadly weapon or dangerous instrument.
All right. So how would involuntary manslaughter fall in the realm of the definition, just of blanket manslaughter in this bill?
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Because in the bill, you have they have manslaughter, and then they have, whatever it's applicable to it. So that's what I'm trying to get to.
Okay, in ours, it would just the crime of manslaughter. If someone is charged with reckless manslaughter, meaning the taking of a life by the means of a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, then it would fall under this bill, where they would not get that mandatory early release. And the reason, I'm sorry.
But I want to know about the involuntary manslaughter. and that one you just talked about is voluntary. So I want to know in a situation where, a car accident. A person really wasn't trying to do that, but they're charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Right.
Then I want to know whether or not this will be applicable to that side, involuntary.
Yes, sir. As the bill currently reads, because it does involve the use of a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, since a vehicle, like you're talking about the DUIs, it would fall under this right now.
Okay, all right, and that's what I thought
Yes,
it
sir.
would, and that's what I really want someone to actually say this to the committee, because they may or may not want to embrace the fact that that's what we're doing. So I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to make the comment that, I understand what we are trying to do here, and that is to deal, I understand the isolated situation that brought us here. I understand the sort of, lack of a better word, heinousness of what may have happened and want to embrace it. But this is clearly one of those examples of where, in trying to get this one thing over here, the incidental consequence to people that were just hurting over here is like this. In the involuntary side, we're so blunt, like a horse trying to get down there to get that over there. We just knocking these folks over here that shouldn't apply, in my opinion. So I would like for us to get an amendment just to make a distinction, that we're talking about the kind of person that she's just mentioned about in those kind of crimes and things that will bring us into this manslaughter versus a person who's just riding down the road and then for whatever reason, they could drop the coffee. They shouldn't do that. That's negligence, but drop the coffee and they look up and they done hit somebody who come across the street or, something like that, and now all of a sudden they charge with involuntary manslaughter.
Great point. I had that conversation with Senator Stutz this morning, and he's assured me and we can continue that conversation and maybe try to work on something that would carve out of those instances that you and I both see that in the instance of somebody that drops their coffee. I know of a situation that we discussed this morning involving a box truck that the allegations were simply no drugs, no alcohol, no speed, but that he was trying to pass on where it was a no passing lane, and he's subject to being convicted of manslaughter. So extremely valid point. Senator Stutz, would you consider working with us on that?
Absolutely, but I would like to move the bill.
Yes, sir.
Out of committee.
Senator Van?
I would say with the understanding that we're going to not cast the net so wide, and we'll work on that because I do think the net is cast a little too widely. I would move favorable report.
And I'll second that. Senator Smithman?
I would like to say this, though, in the regard to everything we've said, that I do, though, in this scenario that we're talking about, would like to place the responsibility. I know it is, but I would like to place responsibility back on the sponsor, because we can look up so many times, and I'm looking at a special order calendar, and it's on there, and the first thing will be said to me, well, you didn't get with me. No, the responsibility, knowing the sentiments of the members in the group, is that the sponsor then make sure that is addressed. Even if y'all talk and don't talk to me, I need a copy of what we considering. Y'all might have some time that I may not. That's why I respect that. But still, before we move forward, I would like to have that document where we talk about it and narrowing, like what he just said in regards to that. So I just want to kind of clear that point up here, so we won't get on the floor. You see what I mean?
Good point.
And then, now I'm looking at this, and that's the first thing I hear is that, well, you didn't get with me. I don't want it like that.
Senator Stutz, would you accommodate that, and we'll maybe the three of us work together on that as well. Thank you. We have a favorable by Senator Van. I second that. Any opposition using previous role? Opposition to using previous role. Senator Smitherman, you want to be added on the roll as being here. We'll call for a roll call vote.
Senator Albritton? Senator Coleman Madison? Senator Figures? No. Senator Gavan?
Right.
Senator Marsh? Senator Orr? Senator Sanders Fortier? Senator Singleton? No. Senator Smitherman?
No.
Senator Stutz?
Aye.
Senator Barfoot?
Aye. Bill receives a favorable report 4-3. I want to tell the family members, again, thank you for being here. I'm a son of a police officer, and fortunate that never had to go through what y'all have experienced. And just want to tell you thank you for being here, and I'm sorry for the loss of your loved one. Thank y'all. Clerk, if you would call the next bill, we're going to do.
SB 220 by Senator Coleman Madison.
SB 220 is, we've had this bill before. It is credit for time served. For instance, we know that many of our state inmates are in county facilities that are locked up. They may be
Move
there.
for favorable report.
Second.
Now, we've got a couple of seconds. Senator Smitherman seconded that motion. Let's. Well, let's say this. We're down a little bit on the committee.
Well,
Can't use previous role. You want your use previous role, but change your votes to any opposition. Use previous role with members Smitherman, Coleman, Madison, and Singleton. We get to keep rocking, but they want to continue. They want to be a yes on this. Am I correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
All right. So we'll add their names to the yes using previous role. Bill receives a favorable report, 7-0.
you're the chairman.
That's what they tell me, anyway, as of today until he comes back and snatches it from me.
Nah.
Mary, will you call next bill?
SB 289 by Senator Watley.
All right, we've got a public hearing set on this. We've got several folks that want to speak in for and against. We're going to limit those to 2 minutes apiece in the sake of trying to preserve time, try to get some other business done.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a suggestion. Can we go on and do those bills that does not have public hearing? We can get that out of the way, and then we can come back to the public hearing just in case we get a chance to vote or not.
Well, I would, let's go ahead and take this public hearing up. Senator Watley wanted to go ahead and try to get this removed in the interest of time, and I told him that I would do that.
Not a problem. Not a problem, Mr. Chairman.
Let's go ahead and have one of the proponents, Brandon Owens. Brandon, if you'll come up and give us your name and who you're with, and give us about 2 minutes of your time, and let us know why this is a good bill.
Yes, sir. I'll try not to take 2 minutes of your time if that's okay.
Yes, sir, that'd be fine.
Okay, so my name is Brandon Owens. I'm Executive Director of the Alabama Beverage Licensees Association. We're a group of alcohol licensees around the state, bars, package stores, restaurants. We have come up with this, we've asked for this bill to be passed because some of our members, small businesses around the state, are having problems getting product right now. And right now there's a split in the ABC board where they offer 40% of the products that come into the state are available to private licensees, and around 60% go through ABC retail stores. Well, that creates a little bit of a problem now because there are about 167 ABC stores in the state, and there's about 4,000 licensees at this time. So all this bill is trying to do is make it to where these products are more available, and it does it by a couple of ways. It changes the split to 80%, 20%. It also puts a 30-day waiting period on there to make sure that our guys can get the products they need before they go on the shelves of the ABC store. There's another couple provisions on it that helps with the, has an advisory board that's made up of stakeholders with it, including us, restaurants, the manufacturers, the suppliers, the distributors. Everybody's a part of this. So what we ask for the committee to do is just allow this to get through, and then hopefully we're going to be able to fix the system. This is definitely an evolution that's been needed for a while as we've grown in the state to 4,000 licensees. I mean, this is not the same state we were even 10 years ago. So that's what the bill is about, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Let's, if we could, do you have a question specific for him, or can we wait until the, if you have one, we'll go ahead and address that now. Let's go ahead and get through everybody, and then we can call them up one by one if you've got questions specifically that weren't answered by others, if we could. Let's, thank you for your time. Let's do an opponent, former Representative Matt Gibson. Still have the title and the honor. You want to come up and speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the consumers of Alabama, this is a bad bill. I will acquiesce to my my executive chief officer.
Yes, sir.
To go into the detail on that. To save you
Understand.
time. So I'm going to ask Neil Graff.
Come on up, Mr. Graff, if you could, and,
He was on the list.
yes, sir. Thank you. He is on the list. Give us an explanation of your opposition to it.
Thank you, Mr. Mack. My name is Neil Graff. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Alabama ABC. The bill in front of you purports that we have provided a bad business environment, and we propose that that's not true. Over the last 5 years, we've put in a lot of changes that have improved the business environment for the on and off-premise accounts, and during that period, they've flourished. Prior to COVID, they grew faster than the national average. During COVID, they grew at 50%, and the national average grew at 30%. After COVID, everybody has slowed down, but they are still going at about 7 times the pace. So we propose that the business environment's not the problem. There is a problem there, and that is that there's a global supply issue, and it's causing us and the independents of all sorts to be out of business. I mean, not out of business, excuse me, out of product. And that wasn't as bad when it was small things, but when it's the big stuff, the Jack Daniels and Woodford Reserve, those are things that everybody depends on to keep their business going. So I can understand the concern that is being put out, but this bill is not the answer. It would cripple the ABC. It's a system that does not exist anywhere in the consumer goods industry. They're asking that we hold inventory for 30 days, sell it to a subset, and then give whatever's left to the rest of it. That does not exist, and it doesn't exist because it is highly inefficient, and it would cripple any distribution system. So we propose that you do not move forward with it. On top of that, in response, we do not keep, on the majority of things, 60-40 split. That's only on the allocated items, and those are very, very few items. Everything else comes in and goes wherever it needs to go. In fact, 60 to 80% of the items that are required by the independent is what's been going to them over the last year.
Okay. Mr. Graff, we're at the 2-minute mark. We have some questions when we get through the public hearing portion by some of the members. So if you will stick around, I know you intend to.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. One proponent, Jim, I apologize. I don't have my glasses. Hurston? Is it Hurston, Hurston?
It is. It's Hurston.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. My name is Jim Hurston. I'm a package store owner from Phoenix City, Alabama. There's a philosophical debate for another time as to whether the state government should even be engaged in private enterprise in the first place. But regardless of that, as far as spirits goes, that's the case in Alabama. But in Alabama, private people are. We are also engaged in the spirits business. ABC is tasked with the complete control, distribution, and regulation of all the spirits in Alabama. They're the final authority, and they certainly take that seriously. And that's all good. You need a government watchdog for something as serious as liquor. The problem arises, though, when that entity has the complete regulatory and distribution control of our industry, and it's in direct competition with us in the business market. They're not our partners in business. They are our greatest competitive entity. They're our enemy in a lot of ways, unfortunately. This is by their choice, not ours. ABC does not work with us, but openly competes with us. This competition was not the original intent of legislation that started the ABC board. Since ABC is in the retail business, we've tried over many years to get them to look at us as partners and at least colleagues in business worthy of some respect in distribution, merchandising, and sales of spirits, but this has been to no avail. They have continued to act as an aggressive competitor against the small business people in Alabama and use the awesome power of the state to contribute to that. This has gone on for years, and it's getting quite untenable for our business model, and thus the reason for our asking for this legislation as a start. We need fair allocation of product. I submit we have that right to have access to the same products at the same level of availability as does the state-run ABC stores. And this is what this is all about. As Brandon said, they currently hold 60% of all products for themselves. It goes through 167 ABC stores. There are 4,000 licensees in the state of Alabama, bar, restaurant, and package stores.
Ms. Hurston, I hate to tell you this, but 2 minutes travels fast when you're spreading the good word. But we are limited by time, and I appreciate you being here.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay.
Members, I don't have anybody else signed up to speak for or against. I know there were some questions. Senator Smitherman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I would like to first ask either one of the gentlemen who came up in proponents of it, either one, it doesn't matter, either one you all want, and just briefly tell me what did you mean? Kind of tell me about this 80-20 that you were talking about. You remember?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, what's the just talk to me. I don't,
Yes,
you know.
yes, sir. Right now, there's a share where ABC takes 60% of the product and sells it to the retail stores, and sometimes.
Oh, that's what the other gentleman just got through saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it meant, the 60-40 now.
60-40, and
you all want an 80-20.
Yeah,
I mean,
in our way. And where the private stores get 80, private licensees get 80%, restaurants, bars, package stores, ABC will have guaranteed 20%. Sometimes more, sometimes.
I see what you're saying.
But, there's restaurants, bars, package stores that aren't getting the product that they need at this time, and we just want to make sure that they're able to get it.
I understand.
Yes,
It's okay. Thank you on that.
Okay.
I understand. That's the juggler with that, because they getting 60 now. You want to cut them all down to 20. I mean, just regardless if the rationale about what we here for, but I mean that's a juggler. Yeah, that's 66% slash that you want to do off the top of the thing. I know the need. I heard you, but that's harsh. That's all I was gonna say. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Senator.
Now the other side of it, I think the executive director, the Mac said that it was. Tell me what effect it's gonna have on the consumer. Mac mentioned that when he got up.
There are three impacts that I have on the consumer. Since the way this bill is set up, you would have to purchase 30 days afterwards. The ABC stores would, just the way we receive, wouldn't get any product anymore. So we would stop being functional. So it would force all the consumers into the private package stores. The result of that would be substantially higher prices. They run a small business. They have to work on a higher margin, so there's no concern there. But on some items, it would be 10 and 12 times as much as it is. There are examples that we can give you that where like a product like Weller Foolproof is $49 in our stores and it's $400 in independent package stores.
Oh yeah, you can stop there. I know what you're saying. I've seen that too, what you just saying. But let me ask you this, and I should have asked them this question. I'm gonna be through, Mr. Chairman, after this question. I should have asked them, but you're here and I don't time say.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now these products that they're trying to get the 40 and 60. Okay, the channel of entry into the state is basically the ABC board, or can they go past that channel and get it some other way?
The channel is the Alabama ABC board. Every bottle of liquor sold here has to go through us.
Okay.
I'd like to point out that it is not a 60-40. That's not a fair statement. That is only applicable to the very few items that are allocated. Everything else is.
Different items have certain allocations. That's what you're saying.
We don't allocate the other ones. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of items they get above 50 to 60% today.
Okay. All right. And I'll just thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, in conclusion, I just thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Senator Gavan.
As many bills we have, the truth is somewhere in the middle, I think. And I think this is from the experiences I've had, or not experiences, but the conversations I've had with people in private industry, there have been problems, empirical problems, with how ABC has handled some things. But I don't see how we can take 80% of the product and put it in private stores either. What's the point? And I mean, that's just a lot of wasted rent money and wasted salaries right there. So. We can probably get this out of committee, but I will go ahead and say it. I cannot support it on the floor the way it is right now.
Understand. Thank you for comments. I hear some dissension as well. I do think, Senator Watley's a bill that's important to him, and an effort to try to get this thing out of committee and maybe have the sponsor and the groups maybe sit down and see if they can come up with some type of resolution to that, a compromise. I think that'd be beneficial. Was your motion to move it favorable? Second, Senator Stutz. Using previous rule, bill receives favorable report 7-0. Thank you so much. And you are on that roll, Senator Stutz. Next one, waiting on Senator Gudger. Is he? Oh, come on, Senator Gudger. Sorry about that.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. Committee, thanks for allowing me to be here today. This is a bill that I'd like to say I'm carrying for the Lieutenant Governor's office, but honestly, it's a bill that we're carrying for everybody in this room, just for the fact of there's good actors and bad actors, whether that's in business or whether that's in government. And there are some bad actors, obviously, that are in government. And so to get to the point, this bill is a bill that would provide that only 10% of a municipality's budget may come from fines and penalties generated from traffic tickets. All right, so I've been a city councilman for 14 years. Municipalities and local leaders should be focusing on the positive change to create in their community sales tax for a larger budget, obviously, to allocate, better quality of life, an environment where entrepreneurs flourish, not on the negative side where you're trying to stop people and not just give them a citation for speeding. But if you look at what they've been doing in certain communities across Alabama, one in particular, they've been giving out 6 violations at one time. And if you're not on time on those payments, they put you in jail, all right, and have a warrant out for you. So if you go over the 10% that's in this bill, these the funds would be, those excess funds would be distributed to the Crime Victims Compensation Fund and the Fair Trial Tax Fund. That would be disbursement back. That's what this bill does. I know I have been on the hall this morning. There's been a few amendments that have been out. I'm fine with some of those amendments, but not all of them. I know there's a public hearing, so I'll stop at this point.
All right. Senator Smitherman, did you want to proceed with the public hearing, or did you want to ask sponsor questions?
I really want to, I guess, kind of just make a comment.
Yes, sir.
One, in humor, you didn't show any mercy Saturday.
At all.
At all. I mean, it didn't show any mercy.
Impressive, wasn't it?
His school defeated mine
Big save.
for the state championship. I mean, at the last moment on the last play.
That's it.
And you took my spot. I was supposed to have been standing out there.
I was there.
The victorious senator stands out there.
First time in 114 years. We did it, though.
I looked at you, and you were standing there just kind of saying, like you were ready to go, But the comments I want to make is this, that, it's a song, I'll say this without saying anything else to the end, Mr. Chairman. It's a song where they said, "Let my people go." Well, I'm gonna say it like this: "Let my cities go." Mm-hmm. So I'll talk further to you about that, but I just I think that what I'm concerned about and I listen and see if whoever comes up will address that. But I'm concerned about the same thing I kind of when I first walked here on the first bill, in our desires to get the cities. Like the cities, I think you're saying Brookside, whoever that was, and our desires to get them, we just taking out all these other cities. I mean, we saying to them, because they did something wrong, that y'all too got to be punished, and that's not right. That's not right. I keep saying that every day. I'm in this legislature 3 days that we run like that, and we don't realize that you're running over. Your tentacles are out here, but your eyes are right here. So those tentacles out here are knocking down everything that you focus on running, trying to get to over there. And this is one of those situations. So it's the only way that I can go forward with something like this is that, I'm looking at these amendments, but the amendment just list my cities and just pull them out of this situation, because otherwise I can't let them go down because we're trying to go get somebody over there.
I understand,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. I know I'm at the mercy of you, but to address that, if it's all right.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
Public hearing, but I would love, instead of me talking, just to go ahead and have the first person that would come up, maybe Ms. Connie Rowe, could talk about the survey we did to address what he was just talking about with the other municipalities.
That'd be fine.
All right.
Representative Rowe, former representative, still number one in our hearts.
I'm a staffer on the 7th floor now. But thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. So the Lieutenant Governor requested that this bill be drafted in response specifically to Brookside. And let's start with this explanation. When you pay a traffic ticket in a municipality, the total sum that is paid does not go into the city coffers. A percentage of those funds goes into the city coffers. So we are not interested in looking at overall receipts received on traffic tickets, just that percentage that goes into your city's annual operating budget. Because what we're after is to discourage policing for profit, which is an issue in Brookside in particular. 49 point some odd % of their operating budget came from the money their city collected on traffic tickets. So what we looked at was, what is a normal percentage? We made several calls around the state. I had a conversation with Louis Zook, who is employed by the League of Municipalities, and said, let's find an average. At that time, they declined to do a survey. What we could find was that nobody was over 5%. Everybody was around like 3.7, 1.2. It just depended on the jurisdiction. So more recently, in conversations with Zook, what I said was, well, you don't have a number, so let's do this. We think 5 gets everybody. Let's double it and do 10. 10%. That ought to catch everybody. More recently, the league has done a survey. I believe, and I will not speak for them, but what I recall from my conversation with them is that they only have one municipality who's kind of an outlier near the 10% mark. And I think that they are going to bring an amendment that says they want to go to 15. I think 15 is close to policing for profit. But that's your decision. You're the committee. There is another amendment that comes from LSA that has to do with some legal language, which we think is a good amendment. Another part of the League of Municipalities amendment has to do with making sure that we qualify. It is not all of the receipts the city takes in for a traffic ticket, but just the portion that they specifically receive that goes into their budget. This is in an attempt to take away the incentive of law enforcement agencies that are out generating revenue off of traffic tickets to operate their cities and towns. This is generally not a large city problem. Generally, this is an issue where you have interstate traffic and you have local police up on the interstate running traffic, which is fairly unusual. This is usually a small town issue. Be happy to answer any questions.
Members, now's your time. You got her on the microphone. Any questions that you may have for her?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We do have someone signed up to speak in opposition, Baker Allen with the Alabama League of Municipalities. Mr. Allen, if you would, come forward for us.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Baker Allen. I'm the Director of Policy and Research for the Alabama League of Municipalities. We have concerns with the bill as written. It was pointed out. One of them dealt with ensuring that the language on there is more of a technical correction, that it does reflect that it's just the municipally received portion that's counted towards that portion of the budget. And we have a concern over the 10% not being a high enough element to not punish good actors. One of the things we look at specifically is most municipalities that we've talked to, it's a small portion. But the two concerns come in is if you're a smaller town and you have a decrease in sales tax one year, even if your tickets are the exact same as last year, your proportion of your budget does go up. And so while we know we have a municipality who thinks around 10%, we just want to make sure in a decline, they're not getting punished, even if that percentage is the same. So that's the short of it. We don't want to punish anyone for doing the right thing.
All right, members, Senator Smithman.
What you say your title is?
Director of Policy and Research.
Okay. Are you legally trained?
I'm not.
Okay. All right. Well, by you being with the policy, I think you might can answer this. Tell me why the city of Brookside City Council could not pass a city ordinance that's saying that the city of Brookside, whatever way you want to phrase it, police department cannot use any more than 10% of the city revenue for the operation of the police department. Why? Well, tell me why they can't do that themselves. Second thing, tell me why it cannot be a piece of local legislation that addresses Brookside by that particular delegation to limit the city of Brookside themselves to 10%. Can you answer either one of both of those questions?
I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know about the legal side of Brookside imposing that on themselves. We focused on the bill that we received as far as addressing it, tried to work towards, again, this amendment for us would address those concerns. So we really focused on this bill in front of us as opposed to whether it should be a local piece of legislation or not.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Members, any other questions as relates to this?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment to add to it in reference to, and I think you all have copies of it. And this would raise the amount to 15%. I think, do you have a copy of that up there?
Members, y'all have a copy of that particular amendment? You should have it now.
And
It has been
this
circulated.
comes back to the smaller cities that, again, quite frankly, I think Brookside has one business that I can remember. It's a dollar store. That's the only. So they're going to have some problems as well. But you have a lot of small cities that don't have revenues that are coming in, but we don't want it to be an incentive to give tickets. But you do have to look at the economy or how they survive. So I would move that. Where is it? Excuse me. The good.
Members, we're on the be on the amendment. Senator Gudger, you can, and this is the amendment that would raise that 10% up to 15%.
Y'all heard in caucus anyway that I'm a math geek anyway, right? I've got a little trig book next to my bed. My wife calls me a geek about once a week. But I reversed engineered the numbers based on the 15%. And Senator Coleman Madison and I talked a little bit about this before this meeting. What Baker was just saying, I actually am in agreement with by doing a net for what the city gets in their coffers versus the gross. If you looked out the colored sheet first a second ago, you can see at the bottom, and I took a speeding fine citation from my district, Hanceville City, made them highlight everything that goes to the county, everything that goes to the city, everything that goes to the state. We approximately get 49% in the city coffers. So what he was saying, to clarify the language in this bill, first of all, is that instead of it being the gross amount, which is $206 total for that ticket, the cities only got 49% of that, approximately 48.8%. So if we're going to make this net so they can go to 10% of their budget by doing the net of what the city gets in their coffers, they're actually almost doubling, which is fine. But the cities need to have more money to be able to go to the police and everything. But by adding this amendment, the 15%, if you look at the sheet where I reverse engineered, and I'm sorry, that's just my Scrabble right there, they actually would go again, and their total would end up being $204,918. I think that it's an overkill on this. I think that being a net, again, doubles the amount that they're able to get in their city coffers. I do think taking it to 15 is too much, and they're policing for profit, is my personal opinion. So I would ask the committee to vote no on this particular amendment. Any questions? I know there's a lot that's on there. If you want to go through the option one at the top, is the way that the bill was intended to be. You can see how much the state was getting, how much the county was getting, how much the city was getting. Option two is doing what the league is suggesting, and honestly, I agree with what that is, because I think the cities need that extra money that's in their budgets to be able to do and add towards services, whether that's police or whether they have something that can go to sanitation or roads. And that allows the state to have more money, the county to have more money, and the city to get the full 10% of their budget, which is, on this scenario, a town in rural Alabama, the council will say, listen, $1 million, 10% of that would be $100,000, right? If you did it the way the bill was intended, back to option one, the city would only get $48,000. So I think it's the right thing to do to allow them to get the full 10%, which is option two. Now, this amendment that you're suggesting now is option three, or at the very bottom. That allows the cities to go up to approximately 150,000, which is 5% more than what the bill is stating now. I think you start policing for profit after that, because from the surveys we found, no one is at 10%. They're all under 10% from the ones that we found in the municipalities. So going up another 5%, I think, is excess. That's my opinion, Chairman.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Senator Gudger. I think, obviously some valid concerns that have been raised, in my opinion, about the amendment. And I understand the intent to make sure that that municipalities are capped at a level to where there's not policing for profit. And I think it's important for, we've heard opposition and we've heard proponents as well. It would be my request to the committee, we're down to 5 members. I think this is an important piece of legislation that deserves real continued debate as it relates to the amendments, as it relates to the bills, that we carry this bill over. We've had a public hearing on it, have some opportunity to continue discussion on that. Hopefully this committee would be unanimous in that and seeing the value of carrying it over to continue that discussion. Any opposition to carrying this bill over? All right. Hearing none. The bill's carried over. We'll put it on our next agenda. Sir. Well, I think it's thank you for agreeing with me that we need good discussion on it. With that being said, we are bumping up against our hour mark. There are a couple of non-controversial bills that I would like to go ahead and take up. Senator Coleman Madison.
Yeah, and I'd like for us to get to SB 6. We have had this on last year. It's pretty much.
Senator Coleman Madison is who? SB 6. Refresh my memory.
That's the one that Senator Gavan and I worked on as far as restoration of voting.
We're going to do SB 6 now.
Thank you. You have a sheet that is there in front of you that sort of gives a summary of talking points of SB 6. Senator Gavan and I worked on this last year. Did I say Gudger? Senator Gavan and I worked on this last year. This was a bipartisan bill that we worked on, and it really passed the Senate pretty much unanimously last year. As you know, right now, a person who has been convicted of a crime, they can apply to the pardons of parole to have their
Mr. Chairman, unless the good senator who worked on it has any questions, I'll the senator over here, I'll move for favorable report. Oh, I mean, adopt.
Yes.
You got a substitute?
Have a sub, and I think you all have it in your packets.
I believe we do.
Senator Gavan and myself.
Second.
Motion to adopt the sub in a second. Any opposition using previous roll? Sub is now on the table. Motion favorable by both the senators, maybe previous motion. Any opposition using previous roll? Having seen none, the bill receives a favorable report. Thank you so much. That was easier this time than last time, right?
We had some hard work.
We got some more.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to do 197 since I've had my judge to come down here today.
Let's take care of SB 197, and thank you for pointing that out. I did not recognize that earlier when you made your comments, so thank you very much.
Yes. Judge Hall, would you come forward, please? I just want y'all to see what brilliant judge that we have down in the Black Belt area.
Dallas County native.
Black Belt.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning. How are you?
All right.
Good morning. And this is basically a bill that...
Let me stop real quick.
Ahead.
I believe we're at 241.
241, I'm sorry.
That's correct. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I got something on.
I was looking at this. I said, what is this?
Senator Singleton's busy.
241. I apologize.
Judge, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This is a very simple bill, and I appreciate Senator Singleton for his help with this. Probate judges deal a significant part of their time with commitments, mental health commitments, and the persons that come in and file these cases generally do not have representation. The cases are typically funded through the comptroller's office. There's a possible misunderstanding or misreading of the current law, and the comptrollers are not funding part of the work that's done to by the petitioner's attorney. What this bill would do is just add one line to the current language to clarify that the work done by the petitioner's attorney to assist with the filing of the petition be covered by the comptroller's office. Just a little background on that. Typically, that's already being paid for. It's just requiring the attorneys to be creative in their billing. So it shouldn't create any additional funds to come from the comptroller's office. It will just make it easier for them to process their billing.
I'm supportive of that, Senator Gavan.
I don't do this type work, but I believe in lawyers getting paid, so I move favorable report.
Senator Singleton.
I second, and I just wanted to make sure that I figured all of us would agree with this bill. The bar agrees with it, so thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any opposition to your previous role? No opposition being heard. Bill receives a favorable report. Judges, thank you for being here. Thank you for all the work you
Thank
do.
you, Senator. Thank you.
Next bill on the calendar, we're going to take Senator Figure's bill as it relates to, I believe it's SB 235. There's a motion for favorable and a second on that. Hearing no opposition to using previous role, bill receives a favorable report, 7-0. Next bill is going to be SB 256. That is there is a substitute for that. That's decedents' estates. The probate judges and ALI have worked on this. You should have a copy of the substitute in there. I understand Senator Gavan has some concerns as it relates to some issues that I certainly didn't catch, title concerns and what this bill does with that. Having said that, I am certainly willing to work with Senator Gavan and Judge Kimberly with ALI. There's a motion for favorable on that bill. Second. Any opposition to your previous role? Having seen none, bill gives a favorable report to Senator Smith.
And I just want Senator Gavan just to work real good on that, because I know the impact myself, so I just wouldn't tell you on what you're trying to do.
And that was just for clarification purposes. The sub was adopted, and we voted on that sub. So
okay.
All right, members, I'm gonna give kind of an open mic here. We've got several other bills. Is there anything on the calendar, because we were bumping up at that 1 hour time frame? Is there anything else on the calendar? See Senator Jones out there. Let's go ahead and take Senator Jones since he's made it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've got the next one, just so you know, for Representative Shaver, if that's passed this committee before.
This is SB 32 that we're on.
Okay.
Members, Senator Jones.
So this bill is very simple. It just clarifies that a member of the legislature has standing on local law in their full district. So you would just have standing right now, based on what LSA's told us, in your county. So if you've got an issue with a local bill, this would say that you represent another county that you don't live in, you're going to have standing there too. So that's the thrust of the bill. It also clarifies that, which we believe is the law, me and LSA and others that I've talked to, that you can use your campaign funds on a related matter to your office on a local law. So happy to take any questions.
Members, any questions?
I don't fully understand the
Senator Smithman,
I just don't understand it. That's all. I'm not against it or anything. I can't understand the application of it. That's what I'm trying to say.
So I'll try to not to tell you without going into too much detail. We had a situation on a locally created entity and board. There were a lot of problems with that, and we were trying to intervene in a bond validation. And basically, because it was in a county that I represented but didn't live in, I did not have standing as a member of the legislature. So, and most of you would assume that we have that standing. So this just basically clarifies that.
Okay. Because I thought that was the case. I mean, we have members in our local delegation that's in another county. They live in that county, but they represent part of Jefferson, and they're, it's no difference. Yeah, it's no different in what we do. I didn't know that was a problem. I've been a long time. I ain't never heard that being a problem.
Right.
So this would just give legislative members legal standing to intervene in a lawsuit type action as it relates to a local bill within the district that they represent.
That's right.
Okay.
Any opposition? I'll move to give the bill a favorable report.
Second.
You have a second, Senator Smitherman. Any opposition used in previous role? Excuse me. There is we have an amendment we need to offer, and I apologize for that. My amendment. And that amendment was some concerns by the county and by municipalities that no county, and you should have that amendment to SB 32, no county or municipality shall be liable for or otherwise be required to pay any legal fees incurred as a result of an intervention pursuant to this section by a member of the Alabama legislature. Just saying they have no financial responsibility. Have a first and a second. Senator Gavan, Senator Smitherman seconds the amendment. All in favor of using previous rules relates to the amendment?
Aye.
All right. No opposition. The amendment is now adopted and now back on the bill.
I may have to pull a Senator Smitherman on this one to exclude Madison County, but we can handle that later.
Happy to work with you.
But just put 2 counties down there when you do that. So I won't have to go up there twice. We won't have to go twice. So you just, when you make the amendment, just put Jefferson on there. We'll be all right.
Is that an amendment for favorable report? And have a motion for favorable by Senator Gavan. I'll second that. Any opposition using previous role? Hearing none, the bill receives a favorable report 7-0. The last bill, and I'm on
Can I say something?
Sure.
Now let me know, Senator, when you get ready to move that, because the amendment may be applicable.
I'm gonna come talk to you.
And they don't. And the only reason I'm saying that to him because he sit right in front of me. You can turn around and say, "I'm coming." All right.
I'll make sure we talk to you guys.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So, let's go.
Members, any other bills of any importance or pressing that you'd like to try to get to this morning?
I have 3 other bills on here. I mean, all of them are pressing, but at the end of the day, 207 that deals with these false compartments, and I think it's something that it's a tool that law enforcement needs out there, and they're dealing with.
There's a sub.
There's a sub.
Let's go ahead and adopt the sub, members. You'll have that motion to adopt the sub. Senator Gavan.
Second.
Second by Senator Smitherman. All in favor of using previous role?
Aye.
All right. We're on the bill.
So moved.
There's a motion for favorable by Senator Smitherman. Second by Senator Cole Madison. No opposition here to using previous role. Bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, sir. All right.
We need to go now. I'll get the other 2 on next week.
We will certainly try for that. Thank you.
I need a certainty.
I will tell Senator Whiteley that we need to get those 2. I will certainly do that.
Because we can stay here now.
I will certainly do that. Members, thank y'all. Thank you, folks that were here to participate and hear. We covered more ground than I thought we would. Hopefully, we've got some good bills out of here, and hopefully, we've done some good work today. Thank y'all. We adjourn.
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
I don't think they gave it to me.
Yeah.
I think I heard.